What's poppin', y'all? Another Matt Be Great video. I don't know who he talking about. Let's see what the homie talking about. Yep.
Unbelievable, like nothing I've ever seen before. The way he ran wasn't perfect, but he was the fastest. The way he lifted wasn't ideal, but he was lifting tons of weight. He was an absolute specimen. He was probably the best ever at that position. The kid came to me at 6'3", 240 pounds, and the first time I put a clock on him, he ran a 4.340. The police wound up searching his vehicle, and while they were searching the vehicle, this is when Willie Williams tried to hide a small bag of Mary Jane. And you know how he tried hiding it? By eating it. The guy who you saw just blow up that play like a heat-seeking missile goes by the name of Willie Williams. There's not a shadow of a doubt in my mind. He is the best prospect you have never heard of. Oh, you don't want to take my word for it? That's cool. I figured. Well, how about this? Coming out of high school, he was being compared to Lawrence Taylor. If that wasn't enough for you, I got even more. He was also proclaimed to be the second coming of Ray Lewis. Yeah, that's right. You heard me correctly. We're talking about the Ray Lewis. I can't harp on this enough. When people are throwing a young man's name in the same conversation as Ray Lewis and Lawrence Taylor, that should tell you everything you need to know about him. But let's pull up some cold hard facts to back up these claims. Coming out of high school, he wasn't just a 5-star recruit. He was ranked as the #1 outside linebacker and the 3rd best overall player in the nation. Had an overall scout grade of right at 9988. That is close to being perfect. Willie Williams was a freak of nature. When I was doing all my research for this video and gathering information, the one comparison I kept going back to is he reminds me of Marcus Dupree. They didn't play the same position, but the way people talked about Williams, it reminded me of the Dupree story. If you haven't seen our Marcus Dupree video and you don't know his backstory, feel free to check it out. But long story short, like Marcus Dupree, Williams was just bigger, faster, stronger, and better than everybody else. Let me give you a better perspective. It wasn't by the slightest. No. It was to the point where when you watched him play and you cut on the film, you're like, holy crap, who is that guy? Willie was born to play football, and it's kind of scary to think that at one point in time, other high school athletes had to go up against this guy. I hope what I'm about to say next gives you a little bit of insight of what we're about to get into in this video and story. Mr. Willie Williams had a very troublesome life. How troublesome was it, you may ask? Well, that's a great question, my friend, and I have an even better answer. Before he turned 18 years old, he had already been arrested 11 times. Damn. This man, or I guess I shall say, young man at that, was a certified menace to society. But here's the kicker at that. As you'll see later on, he always got off the hook. It's extremely hard to feel bad for him considering how many chances
I never heard of this dude.
He got.
I go sit there and
lie. The
most
perplexing thing about his story and situation to me, though, is the fact that it's not widely known. And we haven't even got into all the major stuff he did throughout his life. When he was in college, this is where the problems, they started to get even worse. He did some awful things, and I know I just said it, and I don't want to sound like a broken record player, but I can't believe his story hasn't been talked about more. It is one of the most interesting case studies I personally have ever taken a look at. Someone's got to tell all these stories, and I guess by default, it's going to be me. There's many, and I mean many questions people have been asked about this guy even till this day. But however, it all circles back to the one. I mean the one big question we're going to try to get to the bottom of in today's video. What really happened to Willie Williams?
Freaking Willie.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you having a great and fantastic day. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Major shout out to JC for recommending this video. Can't thank you guys enough for requesting these outstanding videos. If you have any recommendations, feel free to leave a comment down below. Who knows? We might make that video. I know you guys are ready to get into this like myself, so strap in, buckle up, get you a snack, get you a popcorn, get your favorite meal you like to eat and watch a video. Because
Lord,
do the same thing. But all right, Matt, blah, blah, shut the crap up, not up for that dough. Let's get into it. It doesn't take long for Mr. Willie Williams' story to get interesting because from the jump, there was a lot of chaos going on. He grew up around the Miami, Florida area, but he went to a ton of different high schools. One bit of piece of information I found interesting is that Willie was a thug. Now I know what you may be sitting here saying, Matt, how dare you call Willie a thug, bro? You can't be doing that. You can't say that. And I think you're right. You want to know why I think Willie Williams was a thug? It's because he came out and stated that himself. In an interview, Willie labeled himself as a thug. He also went on to say this, quote unquote, I've been in jail. I was locked up. I was in a program for juveniles in middle school. Back then, we didn't care about the grades, the teachers. We just went to school for a big fashion show for entertainment only. Yeah.
This must be the Uncle Luke years.
Despite what you may think, Willie actually grew up in a, I'm not going to say good environment, but it was decent. He was in a medium income neighborhood in Miami, and he had 2 parents in his life, and his grandmother and aunts, they were both involved. So he had a lot of people around him. A lot of times when you see kids getting in trouble, it's because, number 1, lack of a father figure in his life, and number 2, just loving people in general. But for Willie, that wasn't the case, at least early on. One day, randomly, his father divorced his mom, left the family, went to Texas, and never returned. That reminds me of that meme that goes around where it's like the dad saying, oh, I'm going to get some milk, and he never returns. That's what happened here, and you can't help but feel sorry for Willie.
Guarantee he left for another woman.
He left. Here's what someone had to say about that in an article and how that might have affected him. As soon as he lost the contact of being under the control of a man, something began to turn a bad way.
It's crazy.
It would have been nice had his dad checked in, even to see how his son was doing, but he never did. Willie needed guidance and understanding. I don't think he ever got that. This is where things slowly started to transition. Remember, he stated his words, not mine. He didn't care about the teachers, didn't care about school. It was just for entertainment only, and it was a big fashion show. Well, once his father left, that quickly turned into him skipping classes, not showing up for multiple weeks at a time, and not obeying his mother. I'm not going to sit up here and go over all these arrests because most of them are petty, but he got arrested 11 times before he turned 18. A bunch of those were minor incidents. Granted, it's not a good thing, but 4 of those were for burglary, and just remember that for later in this video. What's really interesting about a kid getting arrested 11 times is you almost got to come to the conclusion that he doesn't care about it. I can only speak for myself, but the thought of me currently getting arrested as a 24-year-old, that kind of frightens me. Like, I don't want to go through that. And for most kids or young men at that, when they get arrested, it is a traumatizing experience, and they never want to go through that again.
Boy, because these seem kind of new.
You're probably picking up where I'm trying to go with this. It almost seems as if Willie Williams didn't care at all.
Sometimes I'd be confused about Matt Be Great.
You'd be 100% right. Here's what a childhood friend
Is this a random high school clip?
He, referring to Willie, wasn't afraid to get caught. He didn't have any money. Back then, when he saw something he really wanted, he'd be like, yo, I'm going to get that. We'd be at the house and the family would be like, the police is bringing Willie home again. Most of the stuff he was stealing was stupid, like candy bars, toys. One of his bigger arrests, though, was when he was in Gainesville and he got caught stealing $3,800 worth of stereo equipment. Ooh. At the time, he was only 17, but he was tried as an adult and he pleaded no contest. He wound up getting placed on probation for 18 months, and here's what his coach had to say. Too often, he thought he was smarter than everybody else. He always thought he could get away with stuff. If you gotta ask me, I think that stems from being a top-notch athlete. And the sad part about our story, and you probably picked up on this, we haven't even talked about his athletic career. If you want to know a little bit about how good he was in high school, imagine the best edge rusher / linebacker you've ever seen in your life. That was Willie Williams. What fascinates me the most with stories like this is I'm starting to believe it's got to be a mental problem. Something psychologically, it's not right or it's not clicking with you. When you are being compared to Ray Lewis, Lawrence Taylor, people are telling you, dude, you're going to go to college for a couple of years and be a multi-gazillionaire? How does that not change your mindset? I'm asking a genuine question. I know his upbringing has a lot to do with it, but how do you not look at all the bad things you're doing and go, okay, maybe I need to stop that? It'd be the equivalent to Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk getting into an argument with somebody outside of Publix or Walmart. There's no reason for Jeff Bezos or any multimillionaire to argue with some average Joe or some broke person, because who has more to lose? The billionaire. That wasn't a good example. Let me dumb this down. Willie had way more to lose than those other chumps and bozos he was running around with in high school. It's head scratching, man, and I don't want to hear any excuses or BS in the comment section. It's not hard to not break the law and steal from people. Take a listen to this. Somebody asked his head coach, how good was he? And here's what he said. He was probably the best ever at that position. The kid came to me at 6'3", 240 pounds, and the first time I put a clock on him, he ran a 4.340. What's really sad about all of this is it wasn't all bad. There was a great and loving side of Willie Williams. One reporter said, every time I'd see him at a game of practice, he'd come up, give me a hug, and say, thanks for what you're doing for me. He was that kind of a kid. All charisma. It's so hard because you hear things like that and you're like, man, This was a great guy, but then you look at all the terrible things he did and you're like, gosh, how is this the same kid? His recruiting process was chaotic, to say the least. It got to the point where he was being referred to as the killer and the quote-unquote the predator. Those were two of his infamous nicknames he had heading into college. I just want you to imagine you're the running back for your high school football team, and the first play of the game, you get a run play called for yourself. You're like, oh yeah, it's my time to shine, baby. And you look across that line, and it's the killer, a.k.a. the predator, waiting for you. Good gosh almighty. I know he was
not double nicknames, though.
Anyways, continuing along, he narrowed his options down to 4 schools. Florida State, the Cinnamon Roll, shout out to the Cinnamon Roll fan base. Auburn, Miami, which is a.k.a. the U, and Florida. And this is where Williams met a guy that goes by the name of Navarro, who encouraged him to make a diary. Here's what he had to say, quote-unquote, about one of his visits. Dinner was tight. We had our own section in the restaurant, but the only thing that bugged me was that I sat all the way in the back. So I was the last one to get my food. Coach Odell Haggins told us to order as much as we wanted. I ordered a steak and lobster tail. The lobster tail was like $49.99. I couldn't believe something so little could cost so much. The steak didn't even have a price. The menu said something about market value. I was kind of embarrassed, so I didn't order a lot. But then I saw what the other guys were ordering. I was like, forget this. I called the waiter back and told him to bring me 4 lobster tails, 2 steaks, and a shrimp scampi. It was good. I took 2 boxes back with me to the hotel. I tell you what, man, I think old Willie Williams is kind of like us. It's kind of a similar situation, and when you're hanging out with your friends when you're younger and his dad or mom, whoever says, hey, order whatever you want, and you're looking at the menu and you want to order the cheapest thing because you don't want to be that guy ordering expensive stuff. But Willie saw all these other people ordering expensive stuff. He's like, shoot, man, if everybody's doing it, I'm going to do it too. Listen to this, though. Quote unquote. Coach Bowden was cool, but Miss Bowden was the bomb. I swear, she must be related to Betty Crocker or something. When we walked into that house, it was like walking into a Publix bakery. Banana pudding, chocolate cake, cheesecake. I had one of everything. I didn't want to leave. After that visit, his next stop was Auburn, Alabama. He would then go to an Auburn party where he stated, the girls at the party were much better than the farmer girls we'd see all day around campus. I was kind of worried all Auburn had to offer was those farmer girls that talk funny. But the girls at the party weren't farmer girls at all. I thought they must have bust them in from Miami. Here's an interesting quote from Navarro.
Maybe he shouldn't have wrote a diary.
Encouraging him to keep this diary. Willie was so smart. It gets lost with everything that's happened, but this was an intelligent person. With all these teams trying to win him over, the team that made the best impression was Miami. When Williams showed up to campus, he had his own personalized jersey waiting for him, and it had the number 52 on it that was once worn by guess who? Ray Lewis. Williams stated, when I first put on his UM jersey, I felt at home. The coach was like, that's you, Willie. To be honest, it really felt like it. While all these schools were doing their best to try to win over the prestigious Willie Williams, here's what Florida State's quarterback had to say. I gotta give you some context, my bad. He was also being recruited at the same time as Williams, so he knew what was going on. The process is disgusting. Only most people have no idea. All these amazing promises are made, all these gifts are offered, but often, as soon as the player struggles, those same people making promises forget all about you. It's a common story. I talked to a lot of these 4- and 5-star recruits, and let me tell you something, guys. It is a dark and dangerous world out there. That is a different story and different conversation for a different day. Let's get back on track. Ultimately, after a very long and very exciting recruitment process for Willie, he decided to commit and sign with Miami. This was huge news all around the nation, and here was the phone call that the head coach at the time had with Willie. I'm doing cartwheels over here. I'm doing great, and let me tell you something, you're going to do great too. You're committed to us, we're committed to you. Let's do a couple of things. Let's win some championships, and let's get your degree. You've got that 3-year plan. Let's get it done. You notice he said 3-year plan because everybody knew Willie Williams. He was going to the NFL as quick as possible. You would think his signing day, it'd be one of the best days of his life and it'd be great, and for most kids it is, but unfortunately for Willie, it was not. You can't make this stuff up. Only a few hours after signing with Miami, the Gainesville Police Department filed 3 criminal complaints against Willie Williams.
What the hell?
According to the reports, Williams allegedly punched Akeem Thompson, a 22-year-old local man, in the face multiple times inside Royal Blue Night.
The night of the day.
Quote unquote.
Damn, nigga.
Or, my bad, quote unquote. For no apparent reason.
Not on signing
day.
day.
A female University of Florida student from behind without permission and refused to immediately let go. But the biggest one out of all this is Williams allegedly discharged 3 fire extinguishers at the UF Hilton where he was staying. The first 2 charges were misdemeanors, the last was a felony. You know why this is all ironic, right? It's kind of convenient that Florida decided to press these charges after he signed with Miami. You're thinking it, I was thinking it, everybody's thinking the same thing. We're on the same
Crazy.
page. If he would have signed with Florida, this would have never came to light. This then became not just bad news for Willie Williams himself, but bad news for Miami because everybody's looking at them saying, man, how could y'all let this terrible person sign to your university?
Media, man.
You just welcome guys like this in? Miami was put in this terrible position, and luckily enough, Willie, he avoided jail time, and he just had to serve some probation. In total, had 3 years of probation, 250 hours of community service, and was banned from consuming drugs or alcohol. After that was announced, Willie stated, I just feel so great right now. I feel magnificent. Words can't express what this means to me. This was also good news for Miami because 3 weeks later, he was officially accepted into the university and he's ready to go. When he got to practice, it was evident to everybody else, yeah, this dude was on their level. Here's what one of his teammates and also a fellow linebacker had to say. His raw ability was unbelievable, like nothing I've ever seen before. The way he ran wasn't perfect, but he was the fastest. The way he lifted wasn't ideal, but he was lifting tons of weight. He was an absolute specimen. I'm telling you, it just reminds me so much of the running back for Oklahoma, Marcus Dupree. Unfortunately, his biggest strength was also his biggest weakness. Yes, he was super talented, but it was raw talent. He wasn't fully developed. Here's what a different linebacker had to say about him. He was one of the 3 most talented players I'd ever seen. When you're that talented, you can take over high school games, which he did. But college is different, especially Division I. You had to play instinctively, and to be honest, Willie didn't have great instincts. Within his first year, he also started to frustrate the Miami coaching staff because he wasn't going 100%. Some plays he would go hard, but other plays he'd go 40-50% and not try at all. Coaches would then tell him to do something. Man. He would look at him and say, okay, I got you, but he wouldn't do it. Come to think about it, you shouldn't be too shocked because that's how he lived his entire life. Willie Williams always did what Willie Williams wanted to do. He was so good in high school, coaches would tell him to do something. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm the best player on the field. I'm not listening to that clown. And he'd go out there and make a great play. But in college, it's like his teammates were saying, a little bit, or not a little bit, but a lot of different. Here's what the Miami running backs coach had to say. He couldn't get it right. His skills, unmatched, but he just didn't give a crap. He was a dog. He didn't care. That's the frustrating part. I mean, wake the F up. You just wanted to slap the blank out of him. That's coming from a coach in an interview, and that is some intense words. And if you're an athlete or a former athlete, you know when a coach is hard on you like that, it means they care. Unfortunately, in one of his practices right before the season, he injured his left leg, and he missed the entire year. 2 months later, things got even worse when he got in a car wreck, and he almost lost his life. Here's what he had to say in the interview. Everything I've gone through has definitely matured me. The accident definitely made me look at life differently and appreciate things because any second the best things in life, the things you love and care about the most, might be taken away from you. He did rehab that entire season in 2004, and finally, his second year in 2005, this is when he started playing a little bit. When I say a little bit, though, that's all it was because he didn't play much. You could chalk that up to 2 things. Number 1, Steele was hard-headed, wasn't listening in practice. Number 2, Miami in 2005, they had a ton of talent at the linebacker position. The Miami coaching staff was in a good position because it's not like they were this untalented team that even though they had this guy not listening to him, they had to throw him in there. No, they didn't need Willie Williams to succeed. And it's crazy because when he got in there in the few snaps he did and on special teams, he was knocking the crap out of guys. I like this quote. You want to know the truth? Some guys need to leave Miami to succeed. They need to go far away to a nice campus with none of the distractions of home. When you come from an inner city like Willie did, too often it's about fast money. It's not about hard work, about maintaining. Everyone tells you how great you are, everyone feeds you lines, but they don't pull for you to keep striving. They just feed off you. If you're not careful, it brings you down. I'm not sure he could ever focus. Another quote. He kept getting extra chances and he kept blowing them. He was a kid who was nice to your face and seemed to be accepting your help, but then, no. He had no interest. He got opportunity after opportunity and did blank with it all. In the offseason heading into 2006, this is when Willie Williams, he told Miami, hey, I'm not having a good time here and I want to go elsewhere. So he decided to transfer. Reminder, this is back in the early 2000s. We do not have NIL or the transfer portal. But no big deal, right? He'll transfer, sit down a season, he'll be A-okay. Well, unfortunately for Willie, his bad reputation had caught up to him. You see, Miami kept giving him opportunities because they had some skin in the game. But all these other schools, they're looking at him like, well, why would he even give you a shot? Originally, he wanted to go to West Virginia, but problem, they didn't want him. He then said he wanted to go to Tennessee, but the head coach at the time didn't have interest in him either. He then lowered his standards and said, all right, I'm considering Fresno State or Troy, but they didn't have interest in him either. Good gosh almighty. This guy went from the pinnacle to the bottom of the barrel just like that within the snap of a finger. Every school in the country was wanting him. They were fine dining him, buying him lobster tails, steaks, you name it, to now. He can't even go to Fresno State or...
Hey, hold on, bro. He's tripping.
Let me ask you a question.
You got me messed up.
Do you blame these schools for not pursuing him? He was a walking red flag. He would eventually go to a small
Mappy, girl,
school
you
that
acting
goes by
funny
the name
today.
of Pearl River Community College. But in similar fashion, Willie Williams just didn't care, and he didn't try hard. Here's what the head coach of that community college had to say. He seemed into the idea of being here for 1 year, then returning to Division I. He arrived on campus right before the season began, and he always showed up late. Then he couldn't get his information in on time for registration. We were closing in on the deadline, and he refused to do it. I was sitting there trying to get him into school, and he was making me late. It was the tail wagging the dog. Finally, I decided enough was enough, and we turned him down. My defensive coordinator wasn't happy, but you had to have some pride in yourself, and I agree. Why would you want a guy on your team that is essentially cancer like this? When things fell through there a week later, he would enroll at West Los Angeles College. One of the guys around that program said, he's a great player and a better person. I don't know what went wrong in the past, but he's the real deal. That same person also stated he was annihilating people on the field. He was so good at that community college, this is where after that, Louisville, so back to D1, they would give him another opportunity. Here's what he had to say in his first meeting with some Louisville reporters. I feel like I've made a 180-degree turn. I've learned from my situations, and I grew. Yes, I did some things in the past, but all I can do is grow from here and not let it bring me down.
Lazy.
If I'm not putting myself in those situations or hanging out with the wrong people, nothing possibly could happen. All that's behind me. At first glance, it seemed good, and yes, Louisville's coach got a lot of backlash for going after Willie Williams, but according to Williams, he was a changed man. His stint at Louisville didn't last long because after 3 games, a bizarre situation happened.
Oh, damn.
On one night, Williams was listening to his music really loud, so he got pulled over by the police. The police wound up searching his vehicle, and while they were searching the vehicle, this is when Willie Williams tried to hide a small bag of Mary Jane. And you know how he tried hiding it? By eating it. Yeah, that's first on this channel. I've never heard of a story where a guy tries to eat and swallow his weed.
Great. You never been pulled over with some bud before.
The unfortunate part for Willie signing with Louisville is they told him from the jump, if you get in any trouble, you're gone.
You're out of here, brother.
They held true to their word. Within 24 hours of him getting in trouble with the police for trying to swallow his Mary Jane, which I can't believe
out of there.
I'm saying that, he got kicked off of the team. I'm going to assume you're sitting here thinking, all right, this has got to be the end. There's no way anybody else gives him another opportunity and chance. Well, just like our buddy Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. Another team gave him a shot that goes by the name of Glenville State College. Although he was ruled ineligible by the NCAA because of the transfer rules, he did play spring ball with them. Here's what the coach had to say. He went through spring ball with us, and he's the best I've ever been around. One time
Damn.
on speed
Every coach says
he didn't just tackle the quarterback. He headbutted him and gave him a concussion. It was just a tap to Willie, but he was so dang strong. After that brief stint with them, he then went to Union College, which is an NAIA school out of Kentucky. In that one season with them, he set a single-season team record with 144 tackles. Despite all the problems surrounding him, there was still NFL teams that were taking a little bit of interest in him. There was some speculation that they might take a chance on him in the 6th or 7th round or sign him as a free agent. Ultimately, and I can't blame them, NFL teams and executives, GMs, they didn't feel like the reward outweighed the risk. Let me know in the comment section, if you were an NFL GM, would you give Willie Williams a shot? Me personally, it's an easy answer. Absolutely not. Your best ability in this life is availability, and you didn't know if Willie Williams was going to be available. His story doesn't end quite just yet, because in 2011, this is where he was found guilty of second-degree burglary and being a persistent felony offender. He did get convicted, and the jury recommended he serve a 15-year sentence.
Damn.
As it stands today, the only thing I could find on him is his Instagram page. It goes by the name of Willie Williams Fit. I'm 98% sure this is him, but not 100% sure. So if you know anything about it, let us know in the comment section. I scrolled through all of it already, and it's pretty much exactly what you think it is. He's a personal trainer. So I guess he's out of jail, which is good for him.
Oh, okay,
But
cool,
let's
cool,
answer
cool.
the two questions we sometimes ask at the end of these videos. Number one, is Willie Williams a winner or a loser? You don't gotta be a rocket scientist to figure this one out, and it's been a while since I've said this, but he's a loser. Y'all don't know how much I hate sitting up here and saying that. But at the end of the day, I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't tell you my honest opinion and the cold hard truth. He had every opportunity in the world. He could have provided generational wealth for him and his family, and he blew it. The good news is, it doesn't mean the next 10, 20, or 30, 40 years of his life, he will continue to be a loser. He can turn this ship around. Being a winner or loser, it's not permanent. You got to show up every single day. I know Nick Saban likes to say this. I don't think he came up with it, but there's this quote that states, "Success is never owned, it is only rented, and rent is due every day." Same thing can be applied with winning and losing. Now, let's answer this question. What went wrong, or what was the main thing that went wrong for Willie? This one's fairly obvious too.
Lazy.
There's two reasons. Number one, couldn't stay out of trouble, and number two, he didn't work hard. The sad part about it is you can't even chalk it up to, oh, it was just his friends at Miami and all those people in Miami that ruined everything for him. No. You notice everywhere he went, he was in trouble. So you know what that leads me to believe? Some pattern recognition. It's not Willie's friend's fault he didn't succeed. It's Willie's fault. Willie is the reason that Willie stayed in trouble, nobody else. And guess who faced the repercussions? He did, and I hope all my young athletes, you can learn something from this story. To Willie Williams, if you are somehow, someway seeing this video, my brother, I'm wishing the best of luck. From what I've seen on your Instagram page, I hope that is your page, it looks like you've turned things around. I hope you've turned things around, and I hope you learned. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts and all this down below. But, Romany.
Great video by Matt Be Great. Y'all don't know how many people I know like that. I need to make myself a little bit bigger real fast. Hold on. I didn't know. That wasn't it. Y'all don't know how many people I know like this, bro. I'm talking about, pardon me, but I'm saying maybe first day talent, late round. Monsters, bro. Monsters that every time they stepped on the field, it was just boom. Never wanted to go to class, never wanted to, you know what I'm saying? And of course, they was out here from other places, so it would be moving situations, living situations, and it's hard, junior college, even Fresno State players, what I'm saying? This is before NAIA deal. Dude, so many players I know like that. It's crazy, just potential. It blows my mind, but I understand that life's hard, But man, hey, another great video by Matt Be Great. Get that boy subscribe, give him a subscribe. Hairline on the way.